Hello and welcome to Get Funded Live, where we look to bridge the gap between vision and investable project. I am joined today by Kim Wells, none other than Kim Wells, the phenomenal. She is an unbelievable individual, guys. She is such an advocate for agriculture, for farming, for ranching, for meat. She's a farmer herself. She is a meat, I would say specifically a beef expert, connoisseur, whatever term you want to put in it. She knows how to get the best cuts, right? I'll put it to you that way, okay? Kim, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. I'm really looking forward to this Get Funded session. How are you?
Thank you. Yeah, we're doing good. We're getting ready to start a damn cutting.
And it's pretty early. It's pretty early there. I mean, you were texting me at like 4 a.m. your time?
Yes. We're up early, getting things started. They're full days. They're full days between the farming and getting meat out there. It's a lot of work.
I mean, I'd imagine, and no disrespect to anybody, but I would imagine you guys do more work in a day than some people might do in a week. I would imagine. Maybe that's just me imagining, right? But
when you're cleaning food, there's a lot of cleaning.
Yeah.
And cleaning, I don't know, a lot of people, myself included, I don't want to spend all my time cleaning, but when you are dealing with food, that's a top priority.
Yeah.
So we're all running around with a rag and cleaning and
We got about 30 minutes, right? And I mean, you and I could probably speak for 30 hours.
Right.
So let's try and make the best out of it. But I want to start with, just so everyone gets a sense of you, right? Give us the background, where you've come from and how you've got to where you are and what it is you guys are looking to achieve in what it is you guys do.
Right. So for decades, my husband's family has been farming here in Missouri, in the heartland. Everybody that we interact with has influence or time on a farm, family members, whatnot. And so seeing the area again back in the 80s, I knew this was a spot that I wanted to be. And so in 2000, we jumped out of the row crop cow-calf operation side of things and went 100% pasture-based livestock, knowing that what we were reading and what was coming was the fact that people didn't care about where their food came from. They wanted to be assured that people and land across the board were being respected for providing food. Grocery stores, processors, they do their thing. They do. And it all has to come together. But if you don't have that base providing the raw product that takes entire seasons, if not a couple of years, to produce, then...
And I mean, with cattle, I suppose in particular, like genetics is a huge part of it nowadays. It always kind of was, but people wouldn't have called it genetics, I'd say, back in the 80s, right? It was just that averaging Angus is black and that's good. It was that kind of a mentality. But like from the point of view of it takes seasons, right? You probably won't. Well, you're not going to get the cow you want in one generation, when you're breeding cattle, it takes generations to get to the quality benchmark that, if you're mass production and you're just sending out goods for supermarkets and the lower end of the supply chain, and that's fine because, we've more people on the planet than we've ever had before. We have to feed them. Like, when we get into this debate over mass produced and huge volume versus quality, there's an underlying piece where we have a hell of a lot of people, we've got to feed them, right? So that's always the pressing thing. But when you're on the other scale of the market, which I know that's where you guys are at, the quality end of the market, that takes a hell of a lot of time and a hell of a lot of financial support, because when you're starting out and you've got your herd and the herd number is maybe lower than you want it to be starting out, you're breeding for genetics and you're trying to increase the quality and trying to increase the weight and everything else of those cows. what is that like from a financial point of view in terms of, you know, it's a big struggle. It's a big struggle because we talk about in business, we talk about getting into cash flow and getting into profits, everything else as quickly as we can. But it's what kind of supports or lack of supports did you find in that space, in that entire period from start to when you actually get to churn out the product that you want to churn out?
Right. So, the thing is, throughout our farming and ranching communities, the animals that are raised are wonderful quality. They really are across the board. There's been crossbreeding, of course, right? For different needs and whatnot. And there's always those bulls that tend to jump the fence, and then you get surprises in the pasture. So even with those, there's still amazing quality across the board. And I think one of the big problems is the consolidation that has occurred in this market of meat production on the processing end of it, okay, which shuts out so many different avenues to revenue that a lot of farms, ranches could be utilizing, right? And so since it is so consolidated and there are very few choices truly to do any level of processing, right? Because none of those will take your animal. None of those large companies will accept loads processed, right? And there are others that do this, but it's a very small percentage of the market. And so since you don't have that option, funding does not exist, because that's the first thing you're asked when you're getting ready to expand more. You've got small lockers you've used, and you build up a customer base. Now you need to start putting volume through. There's nowhere to do it. So the bank's going, yeah, no. Well, okay, so you spend years putting together the projects that can make it happen, using programs available through the government and various grants and so forth. By the time you finish all the requirements, those programs have now changed.
Yeah, and this is a big challenge, because the agenda of if you're going down that route of the grant route, those goalposts can move. I mean, the big one is with the change of administration, right? You get a change of administration, all of a sudden, what was really hot topic yesterday, really high priority yesterday, just isn't anymore, right? There's any number of other things that can change it, but I mean, that's probably the biggest, most visible, most impactful one is when you get an administration change and boom, everything you were working for that was a priority now isn't anymore. I just want to pull it back though to one little thing, just for people that might be watching that are not from an agricultural background, or maybe they are and they just have no experience of animals, right? Bull jumping the fence, right? Just tell people or give an insight. Well, first of all, what does that mean? And secondly, what does it mean potentially for the steak on the shelf that they eat?
Right. So one of our pastures, personal experience, one of our pastures is that shares a fence line, right? And our neighbor has Darley bulls, very beautiful animals. We have Angus. So we didn't really have a clue this was going on. We had a lot of snow. We had a lot of blizzard, a lot of weather. And so started noticing tracks, right? And then it became a little more apparent. And the gentleman goes, well, I can't keep him in. And now then he finally had to come and, rope him and get him loaded and move him to another location. So the result of that is we had 5 or 6, 7 maybe calves that are white out of our Angus bulls. That herd also has a couple others from years past where that had occurred with another neighbor. So it's part of the cost of, but when you think about it, depending on what you're selling, so we'll sell from our farm, right? Our meat. I'm not shy about sharing what goes on, right? You can drive by and see it. And we try not to be invasive with what we're doing, and yet you can't be totally hands off, right?
Yeah.
So there's balance. There's a definite balance. We don't do everything perfect by any means. We learn every
just even on those Charlie Angus hybrids, let's call them, right?
right.
From let's take it into a business context. And again, this kind of thing, when investors look at agriculture, right, this is a big thing. So, well, this is the type of thing they look at in terms of risk. It's not just disease and illness, it's a full hopping defense. From a revenue point of view, right, those cattle still need to be fed, right? They still need to be cared for. That's everything else.
Yeah.
So that's the input point of view. That's the revenue inputs, we'll say, for those cattle. But where's the revenue output for those cattle?
Well, they're still going to be usable as a product. There's no mistaking that. We have a lot of local sales, right? That meat sells by the pound, right? And so we have a lot of people also that different times of the year want to buy halves, rolls, quarters, right? And so we'll let folks know. Sorry, hang on one sec. Hey, Bobby Joe, you close that door for me? Well, right. And so we'll let them know, look, we've got this cross coming up to weight. It is a cross of these two. And they'll go, yeah. Or they'll go, no, I'll wait for something else. We've got a number of actual dairy cross that folks really like the combination, right? The Charlotte Angus cross, it's pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
Good.
We've had it this year, as you know, right? We had two, we call them our little immaculate conceptions, right? Because they dropped. When they dropped, I mean, it was like, oh my God, where did these come from? We sell in the March, so we just sell for breeding, right? So we're not selling to factory or anything like that. But I know when we bring those to the March, they're Angus as well. They're half Angus, right? And then there's a nice coat of red coming through,
Right.
So I know when we put them up at the March, we're not going to get. We probably won't even cover the cost of feeding them for the coming winter, So we'll be looking to offload them as quick as we can and try and recover as much cost. But this is a lot of the stuff. I only went into that because I know there will be people listening here that are tuning in or maybe watching back that don't know this world or that are just think, cows come from fields, and what do you mean there's different kinds of cows? So, but it's a huge thing. And I mean, it can put a lot of pressure, these types of mishaps, and it happens all the time. These types of mishaps can put a hell of a lot of pressure on farmers and ranchers that are breeding these cattle. But let's bring it into funding, right? Let's bring it into finance, and I'm really looking to try and dive into something here so that others in business that outside of the agricultural sector can maybe get an insight into the struggles of securing funding for a business or a project in agriculture. Because let's take manufacturing, which you could argue, Kim, what you guys do there is a form of manufacturing for food, right? As in there's an input, you process it, and then there's a different product that comes out, right? So one product comes in, there's a process, and a different product comes out. But if you look at it from a manufacturing point of view, if a manufacturer can show history like good credit score, good history, good cash flow management, good profit, blah, 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 all those things. And they've got offtake agreements. Like it's in, we want to scale. We've got a buyer. We make pens, right? At the minute we're selling 1 million pens. We have a contract for 2 million more pens on top of that. And we need X amount of money. Here's all our financials. Here's everything we do. Boom. They're going to get their money. Someone's going to give them their money because the offtake agreement is there. The financials are there. I'm not, and I'm not belittling that journey either. Don't get me wrong. That like no get funded, no journey of funding is easy. It doesn't matter what you do, right? But if you're ticking all those boxes and say you're a manufacturer, then there's a very, very high chance you're going to get your money, right? In agriculture, you could have the same thing. Here's our track record. Here's all our financials. Here's how we manage money. We're good at it. We've good, blah, blah, blah. We've never defaulted on anything ever, right? We're great. We're phenomenal at our business, right? And we've got the buyers for the meat we're looking to produce, right? We've already got the buyers. They're waiting for it. They've signed the contracts pending, like, we get the investment. And still there can be 1,000,001 things that can go on. So I know you've had experience of this. So give us an insight into what that journey has been like for you.
Yeah, it is tough. It is tough. It's been 5 years plus since banks themselves really pulled back from funding in the ag sector, in many ways. SBA came into play a lot, small amounts, micro loans is the new standard when it comes to any of this. So it is frustrating. It is. You got to keep plugging along. You got to keep doing the work behind the scenes to make these things happen still on that basic level. But yeah, the juggling gets crazy. I don't dwell on the stress of any of it financially, because I know behind it all, we are doing good. We're only at 30% debt on everything we're doing. So big picture, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, but I mean, coasting isn't you, right? As in, you don't want to settle into where you are. You've got a place that you want to go to, and that takes funding, right? And I think a lot of people in farming and food processing and will resonate with that. We all have a place that we want to go to, and I think we're all getting really, really frustrated with the lack of financial support that's out there. But here's the thing: I think the money is still there, right? The capital is still there. What has happened is, in a lot of ways, the relationships have changed. Bank managers, I mean, if you think back to when, let's say the 80s, right? Your relationship with the bank manager, with the local bank manager, meant a lot. If you had a good relationship with your bank manager and your books were good and you were repaying debt, typically it was, a bank manager could make a decision and you could get your money. And that for farmers happened a lot, like cash crops and all kinds of things. They get the money from the bank and the bank would go, yeah, we know him, we know John, we know Mary, whoever, they're good for it, right? And that used to happen here in Ireland as well, very, very regularly, right? You can't do that now because it's an algorithm that runs the banking sector. The pillar banks, an algorithm runs the whole thing, no matter what bank you're going to. The algorithm says no, then it's a no. And typically speaking, farmers would not make that criteria for the algorithm. But there are other lenders out there, non-traditional lenders, and they're, we would have access to hundreds of them. But the point is, and I think this is a big message that needs to be distributed within the agricultural community, your local bank is no longer the only, nor were they ever the only player, right? But look at it this way, okay? Lending is a market like any other. Lending is a business like any other, right? Those local banks have left a lot of business on the table, right? Those banks that would have been funding you and people that are in the position you're in and in the industry that would have been funded traditionally by these pillar banks those pillar banks are no longer funded them, and they're leaving all that business on the table. And there are other forms of lending that are available out there, and these guys are mopping it up, right? Now, the other side of it is the criteria and the strictness of it has gone through the roof. Right? Through the roof. I mean, you've got to have every T crossed, every I dotted. Oh, there you go. I was going to say your camera's just gone. Yeah, you're good. You got to have every T crossed, every I dotted. You know what I mean? Or else you're not going to get the funding. And that takes expertise. And here's where I think the challenge is. And you come back to me on this if I'm wrong, right? But here's where I think the challenge is that a lot of farmers are having, a lot of people in food processing, farming and agriculture are having, right? The skill sets are not inherent to the industry that we're in, right? Most farmers do not have the inherent skill set to run deep dive financials, right? And well thought through financials on an Excel sheet. They don't have the skill set to write business plans to the standard that these guys want business plans written to. These are very high level skill sets to do them to the standard that these lenders are looking for. It's a very high level skill set that most people that need the money don't have. And then you're into the paradox of, well, if you don't have them, you got to pay for them. And I can't pay for them because I need the money. So I can't pay for the skill sets to get the money until I get the money, but I can't get the money until I pay for the skill sets. So that's the paradox that we see quite a lot out there. What do you think on that front?
Yes. So on the financials, we all keep obviously books on what's going on, but each entity, I guess you might call it, require their own format for how they want that information submitted to them. No, so yeah, then you're picking around on people's format that sometimes makes absolutely no sense, right? And the criteria added of it needs to be produced by a CPA, which, okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. They very much earned what they do, a CPA, right? But $450 an hour, it's kind of hard when you're juggling so many things, right? And the business plan, that's another really tough one. Oh, yeah, anywhere from 20 pages to 80 pages, how much detail, right? And so you might be really good at writing or not. Personally, I go on way too long about everything. So it gets to be a whole book. A lot of people that are phenomenal at it, the cost is a hard one. It is a tough one. So yeah, both of those are definite roadblocks on applying for various funding.
Yeah, this is the challenge, because you want to get a business plan done thoroughly by someone that knows what they're doing, right? As in that is an expert in that space. And ideally, what you want, no matter what industry you're in, you don't just want someone that's an expert in writing business plans. You want someone that's an expert in writing business plans or your industry. Okay, so for you came someone that's an expert for writing business plans for car sales business is of no use to you, right? They're an expert, and they don't get me wrong, they write you a good business plan. Don't get me wrong, right? But they don't know your industry, right? They don't. As the same, So it's not just getting someone that can write a business plan. Getting an expert that is an expert at writing business plans specifically for what it is you do or the industry that you are in, and to do that properly. I mean, you wouldn't see 10 grand going at that. Right, you really wouldn't see 10 grand if you're going to someone that can produce a document that will be accepted. Across the board, no matter who you bring it to, that it will be accepted.
It's more than that. It is.
I mean, if you go to the KPMGs of the world, you'd want to have 40, 50, 60,000 in your pocket. But even if you go to some of the independents that are out there, if you're going down the route of paying someone to do it and you don't have 10 grand in your pocket at least, forget about it.
Yeah. So we do have a phenomenal company in our own backyard that they do amazing work, and they have for over 3 decades. This company's been in business. So negotiating with the various companies, as we know, networking,
Yeah.
right, can make all the difference. All this just takes it so much longer, though, right? It creates everything happening so much longer when there's so much that needs to be done. There's just so much that needs to be done.
And there's always so much that needs to be done, right? And I mean, I'm just looking at the timer. We got about 3 minutes left. We got about 2 minutes left, right? And there's so much that, I mean, Kim, you and I are going to get started, right?
Yeah.
There's so much to be spoken about. There's so much to talk about. But I mean, I think the takeaways, if we bring it down to takeaways, right? I think what needs to happen within this space of the agricultural community, and I just see Donny Valdez there joining us as well. He's said, "Oh yeah, this big paradox and problem," but and Donny's a great community man as well. So I think this industry needs to come back to community. This industry was always built on community. Always, I mean, okay, historically it was families, right? And you always have the family, and we still have those generational families. I'm from one of the
They are. We're all still out here.
We're all
still out here. And everybody does a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
All of our farmers, our ranchers, those involved in our ag.
They do an amazing job, and there is no better group of, I've now started calling farmers and ranchers and people that the original entrepreneurs, and I started calling them the agripreneurs, because if you look at history, farmers were the original entrepreneurs in a lot of different ways, right? But it has to come back to community. We are the strongest bunch of people, I think, on the face of the planet. What farmers endure, what ranchers endure day in, day out. And I mean, when we say endure, the world would look at it and say they endure that. The farmer looks at it and goes, well, that was just a bit of fun. Right. So
another beautiful.
This is it. Just a phenomenal bunch of people. But what we need to start bringing into the community is those other skill sets, right? We need to start making, business consultants, financial consultants, the CFO types, these corporate types. We need to start bringing those people into the community, right? As distinct from the industry, right? Because they're in the industry. They're already in the industry. There are those types in the industry, but we need to start bringing those people into the community. But Kim, we are out of time. But look, catch up with me on LinkedIn, guys. Catch up with Kim on LinkedIn. We're both there. We're both quite active, very active. Kim, will you come back and do another one of these sessions with us down the line?
I would love to. You guys are always great to talk to. The network keeps growing. Folks are really, really, really wanting to be involved in food. So let's make amazing things happen across the board.
And of course, we have an event, a Get Funded event coming up on the 1st of August. Kim, you're at all those. I'm assuming I'm going to see you there. And guys, you're welcome to join us as well. You can catch up on anyone that wants to watch this back. If you've missed the start, you'll be able to catch it. It'll be up very soon on YouTube, and you'll be able to get it on our website, soterraagri.com. From me, Eamon, it's been great, Kim, having you on. Thank you very much for everyone that joined us, and we'll see you all again soon. Take care.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.